All right, folks, we are back for an XRP market update. It is May 20th, 2025. Market back down a little bit here today. We're going to give you the full breakdown of what's taking place, but major breakthroughs when it comes to the fundamentals. A new Singapore stablecoin dollar issued on the XRP ledger. We have the ledger, the hardware wallet, integrating with the AMM and NFTs on the XRP ledger. We have another exchange platform, BitMEX, that is integrating RLUSD and soon even XRP for margin as well. So a lot of integrations, more access and exposure to liquidity that can now be brought into our XRP ledger ecosystem. Everything preparing us here for the next leg up in the XRP bull run. The short-term price action distracting a lot of folks, wearing some folks thin to the point of selling. And we're going to talk about that with our order book analysis at the end of today's update. So let's get right on into the update. And reminder, we will be back tonight live at 10 p.m. Eastern for our Tuesday, Thursday live shows that we do. 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you then. And how about this? The exact moment you realize that crypto will ultimately win. This right here is our picture here of Elizabeth Warren after losing the stablecoin vote yesterday. And I was watching this live, and I couldn't help but start busting up laughing, watching Elizabeth Warren fuming while this vote was going on. I mean, she's throwing her hands up in the air. She had her hands on her hips. She's like my 2-year-old throwing a tantrum down there on the floors of Congress. Absolutely ridiculous. But cheers to everybody in the crypto community who's fought for this, whether it was electing politicians, senators that did go forward here and now vote. We had over I think it was over maybe a dozen Democrat senators that now came in and voted in favor of this stablecoin bill. So we did get it passed out of the cloture vote, and now it moves on for a full Senate vote. Then it proceeds to the House, and then it can go to President Trump's desk for signing into law. But you just love to see it. Elizabeth, I got a plan for you, Warren, and she tried her best, but she was not able to stop this stablecoin bill from going through. Let's continue on. Now, yesterday we reported on Senator Cynthia Lummis not rescheduling her meeting with Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple. Now, this person says, am I the only one who thinks that by making these statements, Brad was trying to expose the senator's conflict of interest, telling the audience he's playing a dirty game? And I think he's directly right, directly over the target. That's exactly what Brad was doing. See, Brad, in his position as CEO of Ripple, he can't just come on out and start, saying some of these things, but he knows how to nudge the XRP community and the XRP army. He knows how to nudge us and where to shine the light so that we can go investigate and research. And that's what we did right away. When Brad Garlinghouse said something weird's going on, why won't she reschedule? Well, the XRP army took it upon us, Cowboy Crypto, directly on the target. He says, look into Will Cole, who is Senator Lummis's son-in-law. He's seen below reposting Pierre, and that's Pierre Richard, big Bitcoin maxi, silly guy, not a serious person. He is head of product for a Bitcoin payments company and hates seeing Ripple do well. Now we know why Lummis won't meet you. Her financial contributors are A16Z, and her family is deep in Bitcoin. Conflicts? Oh, you betcha. This is what Will Cole, her son-in-law, thinks about XRP. He says this back in 2022. This whole ordeal surfaced something I had completely forgotten about. Yes, XRP Ripple is a centralized joke of a scam. Security fraud is the least of the issues. Let's just take this opportunity to remind anybody that fraud was never alleged in the lawsuit ever. So not only were they not, found to be guilty of fraud, it was never even alleged by the SEC. But that's how deep the hatred in their heart for Ripple and XRP runs with these Bitcoin bros. He says, I'm super proud of what we accomplished. This is not one I would want to celebrate personally. A massive pre-mine with founders greedier than any central bank and a company that has continually obfuscated their connection to XRP to the point of outright lying. And remember, Will Cole's not the only person. A lot of these Bitcoin maxis have come out and they've called Brad and the team there liars, frauds, scammers, and they said that they deserve to go to jail. Well, not only were they never even close to going to jail, they were never alleged to be committing fraud. And when it was all said and done, they committed what is equivalent to a speeding ticket violation in the securities world, right? And so not only were these guys wrong on the case, historically, we're going to look back and see how wrong they were about XRP. But I note here, why do they only come at XRP in such a way, right? Why are they so threatened by us? And I think that you guys can answer that in the comments down below, right? They don't go after Cardano or even Ethereum, really. They don't go after any Solana. They don't go after any other project like they do XRP. Their hatred for XRP runs so deep. Their obsession with it being pre-mined, as if that's some sort of flaw, when actually I believe it's part of the strength of XRP getting into the right hands, getting into the hands of the institutions that are going to use XRP to settle up trillions and trillions of dollars of liquidity, right? And when you look, XRP was built by developers and people within the Bitcoin ecosystem, right? Jed McCaleb, he was part of Mt. Gox. Arthur Brito, he was early on, not so much involved in Bitcoin, but we know that David Schwartz, well, he might have been one of the creators of Bitcoin for all we know. Right, so XRP was derived from Bitcoin developers looking to make a better Bitcoin. And that's exactly what they did. That's why I have this dog tag right here. XRP, the better Bitcoin. I think that it just, that statement right there is so simple and straightforward, right to the point. It's a better Bitcoin. And we're going to talk here in a second about some of these features that are now being recognized by the broader cryptocurrency space. Everybody was misled to believe that this was just a centralized banker's coin with no utility other than providing liquidity for cross-border payments for institutions. That's not the case. That's not even what Ripple's exclusively doing with XRP at this point. Ripple's doing a lot more with XRP and the XRP ledger now where we're at. Now, the hilarious part is these guys are throwing rocks in a glass house. And I'm talking about the Bitcoin bros. This is Pierre Richard right here. XRP is not an institutional grade asset. It is a fake token for gullible retail rubes. Well, I would be, interested to see what he has to say about the gullible retail rubes that invested in his company, Riot Platforms. Dom Kwok here from Easy A. More or less institutional grade than your company's stock is what we ask, Pierre. This stock that's down 99%? Is this a meme coin that got rugged? Nope, it's just another stock in the Bitcoin space. And this is just one example. I could go on and on and on about this. I don't want to. In fact, I just put out a tweet this morning saying that here I was a few months ago planning on going to the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas because the Bitcoin conference is a few days before the XRP conference. And I thought, what a great opportunity. Let's go here. We had the best results in this election, pro-crypto candidates. Let's get legislation passed for stablecoins. Let's get market structure. Let's come together. Let's tokenize Bitcoin on the XRP ledger and actually make it efficient, peer-to-peer cash as it was originally drafted in the white paper. Let's build that bridge. This is what I was thinking a few months ago. And over the past few months, seeing the lashing out from the Bitcoin bros and what they've done has turned me off and turned off so many people, I think. And really, it's hurting our entire industry, which is why I keep on bringing it up. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about the drama between the Bitcoin bros and the silly stuff that they're doing. But we are trying to move forward, and they keep on stopping. They keep on hindering the growth of the entire sector because they only want the legislation that's being passed to serve the bag holders of Bitcoin. Full stop. Full stop. And they know they're losing their monopoly on this narrative that Bitcoin is the one, that everybody needs to own Bitcoin, when in reality, there's limited upside on Bitcoin. There's almost no utility. And for many people, I don't see a reason to actually hold Bitcoin at this point, which is why I don't. I have no plans of ever owning Bitcoin again. But I wanted to comment on this Circle bidding war that's taking place as well, too. We're seeing reports now coming out that the bidding war has gone up to 9 to 11 billion between Ripple and Coinbase, both bidding on Circle. But I shared this speculation this morning, and I want to hear what you guys think. I said right here, Circle nudged their partner. No, I don't want to promote this tweet. Why is it doing this? Let me refresh this. Circle nudged their partner Coinbase to join the bidding war, knowing dang well they aren't in a position to close this deal without taking on big leverage. This is just my speculation, but let me know what you guys think. Essentially, what I think happened here is Circle is just trying to get that valuation up, and so they brought their friend to the auction, right? They brought their friend to the auction that's actually not a serious buyer, but that would be Coinbase, already partnered up with Circle. Coinbase now comes in to join the bidding war, now pushing this valuation up to 10 billion or wherever it may be at. But I asked the question, are they even in a position to close this deal? I don't think that they have the cash on hand to close this deal. And I think that the only way that they'd be able to close this deal is taking on significant leverage, selling more stock, taking on more debt. This is the only way that they'd have to finance this deal 100%. But with the exploit that they just had, the hack and all of the customer information, they've already had to set nearly $500 million aside just to have and to be able to recover funds and take care of losses from their most recent exploit. And this is just one of many issues that Coinbase faces right now. Now, I don't think that Coinbase is absolutely evil, but I just think that you have a little bidding war taking place here that actually isn't real. This is just Coinbase partnered up with Circle to help bring that valuation up and get a higher price out of Ripple. But you guys let me know what you think. Now, BitMEX finally dropping the news on what their collaboration is here with Ripple, adding ROUSD to multi-asset margining, making BitMEX the first exchange to offer ROUSD as margin. So if you're looking to trade on BitMEX, you cannot be in the United States. They're not available for the US residents. But if you're outside of the US, you can use this platform and you can deposit, buy, and trade ROUSD on the platform. But you also can now use ROUSD as margin. And down below in the comments, they also say that here soon you'll be able to use XRP as margin on their platform as well. So more features, functions, and integrations to the XRP ledger. Another one right here with Ledger. That would be the cold storage wallet solution Ledger, now supporting AMM deposits and withdrawals for the XRP ledger. And you can also use it to, I think, I don't know if you can trade your NFTs, but I think that there's also an integration that they've added for NFTs. Now, the reason why this is so important is because nobody knows that the XRP ledger actually has some of these features like a native AMM, like NFTs, like some of the other features and programmability that are on the way, right? Nobody knows this. Why? Because there's been this whole narrative about XRP just being a centralized banker's coin that is only for cross-border payments. And it's just couldn't be further from the truth. And so now you're starting to see BitMEX integrate with ROUSD and XRP. Other platforms are onboarding ROUSD rapidly. And the growth of ROUSD is far surpassing the trajectory and growth, the pace at which Tether and USDC grew at. So ROUSD is on its way to becoming the number one stablecoin. Now, furthermore, AMM, NFT integration within Ledger, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. The ability to have self-custody, have control of your keys and control of your crypto, but then being able to still integrate directly with the ledger without a middleman. And I'm going to be making a video here. My next video that I'm going to be making is going to be on, I'm seriously concerned about our XRP community giving up our XRP to counterparties, whether it be DeFi programs, whether it be centralized programs. There's a lot of people coming out that are ready to take your XRP. And I am seriously scared. Like, I was sick to my stomach last night when I was looking over some of these platforms and how much XRP they've taken in. I am scared to death of what some XRP holders have done by giving up their XRP to some of these counterparties. So I'm going to be making a separate video on that. But bringing it back to my point, with these integrations with Ledger and other wallets, you'll have the ability to be your own bank and interact with the XRP ledger without any middlemen involved at all. This is the end goal for me, and I hope to be able to teach more people how to do so as well. Now, speaking of more integrations on the XRP ledger, well, we have StraitsX debuting its Singapore dollar peg stablecoin XSGD on the XRP ledger to meet the rising demand for regulated multi-chain digital assets in the cross-border payment space. So this is a Singapore digital dollar being brought to the XRP ledger. Another one, right? Queue up DJ Khaled, another one. And there's a lot more coming. There's a lot more coming. And this is why I think that XRP is going to be one of the best assets to keep on your balance sheet, no matter where you're at in the world, because you're always going to have great liquidity to sell your XRP into your native currency directly on the ledger. After all of these stablecoins, RLUSD, and the Singapore dollar, and there's already been a few others that have been brought to the XRP ledger. There's going to be some CBDCs brought to the XRP ledger. We're not a fan of the CBDCs, but I am a fan of great liquidity, which is going to be the benefit of holding XRP at any point. If you do need to tap into that liquidity and transfer it to a dollar in your jurisdiction, you'll be able to do so directly on the XRP ledger. Remember this whole concept of being your own bank and cutting out the middlemen. XRP was supposed to be the centralized banker's coin, but now if you actually know what you're doing with XRP and the XRP ledger, you actually are fulfilling this vision that some of the early Bitcoiners and crypto folks had of being your own bank without middlemen. It's a reality now on the XRP ledger, and the liquidity only grows as we get more stablecoins issued on our ledger. Now, I want to talk here next to wrap up this episode about our XRP market update. Where are we at? There's been a lot of selling of XRP here recently, which is why we are consolidating in this range. We simply just don't have enough inflows to push us up to the next leg higher. And this is what Dom TraderView 2 is showing us. He says, currently XRP has lost its pep in its step. It's currently hanging on to the monthly and quarterly VWAP by a thread. And that's the volume weighted average price. At this point, it really just mid-range noise until all-time high VWAP is broken or 220 is lost. The unfortunate thing is it keeps inching lower as Bitcoin really just bounces around. If you wonder why, there's simply been an overload of market selling, and passive buyers have really tried their best to hold it up so far. And he shares this down here. 240 million XRP net market sold over the last 7 days. The majority of the sell pressure has come from Coinbase and Upbit, about 180 million. Binance has actually been decently flat. It's very hard to see upward moves when we are seeing this type of market selling pressure. Who's selling? I'll answer. Based off the fact that a lot of it's coming from Coinbase and Upbit, this is retail traders, this is retail speculators who didn't have a plan, who are getting impatient. They don't know what they hold. They haven't taken the time to understand the fundamentals behind XRP. They got in after December, January, when XRP was above $2. They're getting impatient. Our economy is struggling in our Main Street economy here. And also Upbit, that's out of Korea. And I was just listening to the trench warfare space last night. And there's a person in there, X-Force Global, who's from Korea. And he said that Korea has an election coming up in 2 weeks. And based on how this election goes, we could actually see big selling from the Korean investors. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the Korea market makes up a big portion of XRP. They love XRP over there. And so we're going to be watching that closely. But to me, the big selling coming from Coinbase and Upbit tells me that it's retail speculators who just have weak hands. And I'll tell you firsthand, I've been speaking with people every single day in one-on-one calls, in group calls, reading comments. And all that's happening is retail speculators who don't know what they hold, they're giving up their XRP, and it's moving into the hands of folks that, whether they're stacking up just a few thousand XRP or hundreds of thousands of XRP, they are telling me that they have no interest in selling until we're at triple digits. So it's being sold off from weak hands, and it's going into the hands of the institutions, and it's going into the hands of smart money, whether that be the small stacker or the big stacker that doesn't plan on selling. So it's unfortunate the retail speculator doesn't understand what they hold and that they're doing this, but that's how the game is played, right? And so, and just like Dom had pointed out there, all of this selling, and it's being up against passive buyers, basically guys who are just doing what I talk about, setting their limit orders, waiting for that market to pull back and letting those orders fill up. So we're going to break this down further tonight in our live show at 10 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys circle back for that one. On the way out, if you could like this video, help us out by sharing it out far and wide, and we will see you guys tonight I appreciate your support. God bless you all.